Reading aloud podcast.
It's Audacity, sorry.
Welcome to the Reading Aloud podcast. Okay, y'all, we're getting going. Let us know if you can hear us.
Give it a minute.
I know. I'm just saying, we literally didn't realize until about 15 minutes ago. We were chatting, we were eating some dinner that Marisol had made, and and I was like, yo, it's 7:45 and we go live in 15 minutes.
And we have quite the setup.
It
doesn't say we're live.
What's that?
It does say we're live.
Yeah, we're live.
How are we at 5 minutes? Anybody watching?
I don't know. It says 51 seconds there. We're getting going. Yeah, we're all good. We're all good. No worries.
Feeling good.
So, what's on your mind?
No. We're not starting until people arrive.
Okay.
Give people time to arrive. Like
Yeah.
People wait 10 minutes for this sometimes.
I know, but then they can catch up.
Well, there's 2 people watching, and I don't know who that is. It's you and me, probably. How are you supposed to know?
Yeah, but then this is our...
Yeah, Papacita in the house.
But then this is our podcast where we chat.
I know. Just, you trusting me?
I'm trusting you. It's all on the trust. It's all on the trust right now.
Hey, Popsicle. Give us a little hey so we can make sure that we're receiving comments. Thanks. Well, there's that.
I wonder if...
Will you give us a little, like...
I wonder if we were live that whole time. That's weird. I don't understand. Why does it go live without...
It says 2 minutes. All right. I think we give it 2.5 more minutes.
2.5 more minutes. You got a good joke?
No, but I'll need one for Tuesday. So can you give me a good joke? These things stinky. Is that funny?
It's a pretty good joke. You're gonna need... How's the hair?
I need some hair gel. I don't know what to do with it.
We really didn't have time to get ready.
Hola, Coca-Cola. Aww.
What's your favorite, if you had a soda to drink, like a pop, what would be your favorite?
Cherry, like maybe cheer wine.
Cheer wine. Wow. Not like, does Texas have its own
Dr. Pepper, which tastes like cheer wine.
Got it. So Dr. Pepper basically stole from cheer wine.
No, because
I'm pretty sure,
yeah,
like North and South Carolina and Georgia, we basically invented soda. I mean, yeah. Coke's from Georgia, Pepsi's from North Carolina, all the
but Dr. Pepper's from Texas.
Right. And so
more importantly, Dr.
Pepper's from
Texas.
They stole it from cheer wine.
Dr. Pepper is airy, and fizzy and makes you burp, whereas cheer wine is deep and rich and delicious.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Let's get started.
You're ready to get started. Ain't nobody here yet. Abby!
People are coming.
Great.
People are coming.
Okay. So my topic for today, little for those watching the live, we can cut this out of the recording, but Love in the Time of Corona is, play on the Gabriel Garcia Marquez book, Love in the Time of Cholera, and which we just finished reading. Did we finish reading that, or 100 Years of Solitude? 100
Years of Solitude.
Same author.
We read Love in the Time of Cholera a couple years ago.
Right. So same author, and both books are magical realism. Anyways, we are doing Love in the Time of Corona, a series. So we record a podcast that we typically release every other week. This year we were supposed to be on tour, and so we did make it. Well, we kind of had quite a start. So we ended up on tour in LA, live at a theater. It was awesome. And we'll probably get back to it. But for now, we've just sort of pivoted and we're doing these live things so that you all can be involved. So if you're here, go ahead and, type your comments in the comment section. We'll get to those. We will use them in our discussion for today.
Yes.
This is going to be a heated discussion if it goes the way that it went before.
Yes. I'm actually sensing, typically when we do podcasts where we're not prepared and we just go ahead and do it, that is actually the essence of reading aloud, because that is actually what happens in relationships, and where the conversation just pops up. And so there we are.
Dr. Pepper was invented in 1885 in Waco, Texas. That might have been earlier than Pepsi.
When the audience needs to let us know when Cheerwine was invented.
Also in Texas, most people call it Pepsi. Can I have a Pepsi?
Pepsi?
Yeah. So, all right. So we'll get some more feedback on Cheerwine, Pepsi, and
Dr. Pepper,
Coca-Cola,
which was invented in 1885 in Waco, Texas.
So the thing is that you already know about this topic.
Great, but I don't remember it. So
because it led to a massive fight. Okay,
here we go. We talked about fighting last time too, so people are going to think that we just fight the whole time.
We're living, working, breathing.
So this is actually love in the time of Corona.
Yeah, 100%. Mm-hmm. All right, so the topic is, and I'm so glad that nobody else can contribute, and other than by writing in, because
and please do,
because I have had such little success in having this conversation with anyone, including you.
Okay.
And definitely including Trouser. She didn't give me hardly enough response at all.
Uh-huh.
So in other words, I haven't talked to a single soul about this, and I am dying to know.
Okay.
So the issue that I feel like I'm dealing with is that right now we're in this pandemic, and we at the beginning of this series 86'd COVID, right? Like this isn't about COVID. This is about love in the time of Corona. So yes. How we show up together, what
we're
it
not
means,
here to give information or talk about it or talk about all
or
the
complain
things,
about
or
it.
Complain about it. Yeah.
Right. We are here to talk about what it's like to be in this relationship, like stuck in this house in this weird time.
Yeah.
And everything that comes up in between it, and how cool it is and how hard it is, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So, however, I do have a need to know about the coronavirus. So every person in the whole world, every last person has said things will never be the same.
Uh-huh.
And when I brought this up to you, mm-hmm. I can't remember exactly, but I feel like I got two responses. One was,
yeah,
I don't know, right? Like, I don't know. And the other was like just sort of a reiteration of everything. Nothing's ever going to be the same again. So why is the question? And I'm not ready to hear your response yet because I didn't like it the other day. But I want to talk about this for just a second, which is
I'm open.
Yeah, which is everybody keeps saying this, but nobody can say why. And I'm not asking for people to tell the future. I just want to name that now and be clear about that. I'm asking for people to explain to me generally, kind of thematically or from a meta perspective, why is it never going to be the same? And kind of the best I got was we're going to have new kind of sensitivities in place about how we interact with each other, and things like, I mean, it's as simple as like buffets will not be the same. Like the little plastic on the buffet will never really be the same. Like it's going to be some other, which buffets are kind of nasty anyways, but I eat out of them at the grocery store all the time. But I get the Chili's, Willie's.
Did you see that video of the guy who was at like a Whole Foods or something.
Recently, right?
And he dipped the spoon into the soup thing at Whole Foods and taste tested and then put the soup spoon back in.
But he's not well.
Obviously not, but anyway, it just reminded me.
And he did that during the pandemic, yeah.
I don't.
It was at the beginning.
It
wasn't that long ago.
I don't trust much that I see on the internet, but yeah.
It's like you and I.
It's still fun to see, though.
Right. It's like you and I going to Whole Foods and just doing that, and then being like, "Look what I just saw." So.
Okay. So back to.
Yeah. No, it's good. Keep interrupting. You haven't said anything today.
Well,
they won't be the same until we get what?
Until we get a vaccine.
Okay. That is what happens.
Carefully about it.
Nip slip. That is clear to me.
Yeah, but I think Marisol is asking. Hi, Dolores. Glad you joined. Marisol is asking though, what exactly is going to be different? And if I hear you right, thanks. And if I hear you right, it's what is going to be different post this whole quarantine thing. So obviously things are different right now. Like that's a given, right? This is quote unquote the new normal. But what you are asking is after this current situation is over, and whenever we go back to a normal state, whenever that is, what exactly will be different?
Right. So let me clarify. So right, exactly. What is going to be different at that point? And it's not even just that. It's literally like, okay, so if we find a vaccine, then we have a vaccine and people can choose to get it or not. And that really reduces, the spread of it. And then the other thing is like I get it, right? Like this one is a monster. Compared to SARS, compared to H1N1, compared to maybe those are the same thing. I don't know. All of these pieces. How's your mom and dad doing?
They're doing well.
I love the lives. I love them. Anything else you want to add about how they're doing?
Yeah, mom and dad are great. They're hanging out. They're I think they're happy. They're very happy.
Who's Dolores?
Dolores is an old friend of my mom's, used to work with my mom, and was a good positive influence on me growing up.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, sorry. So, okay. So I want to read a few of these comments.
Yeah, this is good. Keep them coming in. Yeah.
Plus, our values will be enhanced. A new understanding of what my needs are versus what I thought they were. Okay, so this to me is the liberal perspective. This is the liberal perspective that I think that there are a lot of people at this moment who are taking this time to experience introspection, self-reflection, like what are my needs, right? Like what are my needs? And so many of our needs have been stripped. And so it's this understanding of like, who am I and how do I show up in the world? And about like my relationship to the environment and stuff like that.
Wait, I have to interject. So what okay, go on. Finish, yeah.
But there are other people out there who are experiencing it as like basically like capitalism is suffering and that's the problem, right? And but for those of us who are like, this is a unique opportunity. But what I'm hearing is something a little bit different than that, which is people who are saying it with this like dun dun dun.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm like, what?
Right.
Like if we get the vaccine, then we have it's somewhat managed. And let me just be clear that a lot of people are dying, and that is traumatic. And so there's going to be a trauma response.
Right.
But I don't know why. It's like nobody's saying, because when I say so, what is going to be different? People don't say we're going to have PTSD. Like anybody who was alive for this is going to experience the PTSD. Nobody has said that. They're just like, oh, it's just going to be different. And I'm like, but how? And they're like, oh, it's going to be really different. Okay.
Boy, okay. So, couple things. Where to start? I think, so first of all, I love your passion around this. And I actually think that you're asking a really key question. And it's very insightful into how we are handling this. And I was actually talking with somebody earlier today, around how we're all handling this, through different like lenses. And I think, like, my question for you is, do you think that people have to, like, I think that saying everything's going to be different, like, there's two places where that can come from. That's either coming from fear or it's coming from hope, right? And maybe there's another place, but off the top of my head, that's where it's coming from. It's coming from fear or it's coming from hope. Where it's coming from hope is, oh, this pandemic is exposing all of the inequities and insufficient ways in which our society functions, like having healthcare tied to your employer, just
Right.
as one example, that need to be fixed. And so it's not going to be different because we have an opportunity to change. Or it's coming from fear, in the sense, and I think what I hear you pushing back on is, when it's coming from fear, what exactly are you afraid of? Because other than, and I've heard some things around, there's like conspiracy theories, or there's fear right now of governments kind of taking away a lot of civil liberties in order to control it. And that could be like a legitimate fear-based concern. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, that's one that I've heard. But I am actually in agreement with you that from a fear-based perspective, post-quarantine, post-quote-unquote pandemic, I don't see a lot of fear-based things that would come out of this.
Right.
And I see a lot of hopeful things. And so the sentiment in saying, whoa, nothing's going to be the same, seems like it's coming from a fear-based perspective. And I hear that that's what you're pushing back on. And I'm actually in an agreement with you that I don't, in fact, see a ton of fear-based things, although I think it is also coming from a place, when people say that they don't have an answer, but it's coming from a place of, historically speaking, the powers that be have used global events of a magnitudinal scale, of a big scale, to either grab more power or take more control.
So that's coming from, but that's a little bit of a nod to some of these conspiracy theories that have been going around. And yeah. I just to watch, okay, we always have this lens of the people in our sphere.
Yeah.
And the people in our sphere are hopeful, faithful, positive, excited for life people, right?
Yeah.
And but I feel like this is larger than our sphere. I have seen so much.
Global.
What? Listen to me. I have heard so
Sorry, I
much.
think you're saying our sphere, like you and I's sphere.
In our sphere.
Yeah.
There is so much hope, and people have taken this as opportunity. And yes, there was shock in the beginning and a lot of concern and for the unknown and things like that. But the outpouring of love and support for small businesses, and the desire to do good with this time, the appreciation for the earth, and that's what I'm saying about our sphere. I don't know that extends beyond our sphere of what we're being delivered through our news portals, through our social media portals, through our family and friends. And so, I just and we have a couple more comments that I want to hear from, but outside of that, I don't so one of the concerns that I heard was people aren't going to want to hug as much. Mm-hmm. And I think that would be a huge loss. I hug so many people when I see them. And I think that is a loss, but this but that would be tied again. So that's a trauma response, but that's also tied to this idea that maybe there's a pandemic waiting to start out there. Because again, when we find the vaccine, if possible, and or when this runs its course, if that's possible, what is there to fear? I'm going to, I can't wait to hug my friends. That's what's going to happen. We're going to hug mm-hmm. because it's gone. Mm-hmm. And there is an assumption that science is going to support this going away in some capacity or reducing enough, through a vaccine. So that's what I'm talking about. So people are like, it's never going to be the same because nobody's going to want to touch each other, or even or even the idea of buffets changing. But like, that's the assumption that there's a pandemic on the verge of happening all the time, and there's also cancer on the verge of happening all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's can we read a couple comments, or do you want to reply?
No, you're on fire. Keep it going.
Okay, so Marie says, businesses will take a microscope to who they're employing, eliminating jobs, or reorganizing their structures. So that's pretty good, because that's a huge change. Like, reorganization of business is a big change. I also fear that one of the changes that might be negative are that small businesses won't survive. Corporations will come in its place. I think that that's legitimate. So that kind of like has to do with how long this
Can I make
on.
a point? Yeah.
Yeah, and how much support or not people get.
Can I make a quick point on that? So I think what you were just saying previously around hugging and around that comment there around businesses is I think that is a part of that fear-based kind of like saying of nothing is going to be the same anymore is coming from an unknown in time scale.
That part is annoying to me. Like, you can't see unknown and go, oh, it's going to be shit.
Totally, but and again, it's fear-based. I understand this knowing too. I guess I'm just looking at it from like this perspective, in the sense of I hear you that it's annoying to you and it doesn't make sense, but like it is coming from. So let's take hugs for example. If the social distancing stuff
has, I want to hug you.
If the social distancing, I'm glad we can. As the social distancing stuff happens for another 2 years, then I don't doubt that eventually humans will return back to normal ways, but I think that it would take longer than if we begin to return back to normal in the fall or something like that.
So let me ask you a question.
So it is.
Let me ask you a question.
I know. Well, you let me kind of get my full.
What were you gonna say? You've talked enough.
You have dominated this conversation so far.
It's my conversation.
Right. This is a special episode where Marisol is going to talk. And Adam's going to nod and listen and just be her hype man. Yeah, I kind of lost what I was saying. I mean, it's time frames. Go on, ask me a question.
Hey. Okay, so let's say there's two things there's, like you said, there's this walking quietly back towards hugs, like not feeling totally confident in giving hugs, feeling like we've been kind of behind closed doors for a long time. We've been basically attached with social media for the most part. And so there's this like reintegration of like, how is life with this, like, it's been so long since we've seen people. We're like, oh, hey, right? So there's this like walking closer to it. There's also a slowness around ricocheting back to capitalism as it is. Mm-hmm. Like, I need this, I want this, I'm going to get this on right as soon as I want it, and as soon as this is over, we're going to like buy all this stuff and do all this stuff, right?
Right.
And so it's going to take people a lot of intention to not ricochet back like diet culture, like binge eat after a 7-day diet or a month-long diet, like with the capitalist pieces of it, but also allow themselves to ricochet with joy. Like, I'm so glad to see you, friend. I'm so glad to like hug you and talk to you and hold your hand, friend. It's like this navigating you worried about my nip slip. It's navigating the joy versus the fear, but like, yeah.
I mean, you have to hold that in balance right now, and it is about that when we talk about being in quarantine, because we recognize that if you are consumed by the gravity of the situation, if I am consumed by the fact that every day people are dying, that all of the bad stuff that's going on out there, I don't even want to list it, then my life's not going to be that great. But at the same time, if I'm sitting here taking selfies and being like, home quarantine, which is not bad. I'm not saying don't do that.
I've been doing it a lot.
but doing that, there's also a balance there, because you fail to recognize that, like, okay, you may be like doing all your creative projects while in home quarantine, but at the same time people are literally starving and struggling because they don't have any income coming in, and this is not a fun, different experience, right? And so you can't, it is the takeaway for me is this utter attunement to balance in our lives, because I can't be consumed by this fear and like, sadness that is real right now and existing energetically out in the world. And at the same time, so therefore I have to be like, creating positive experiences in my life. And at the same time, it is important for me as my social duty, in a way, to understand and hold that and honor that and pray for that and do my part to understand that the better I take care of myself, the more I am helping out, the more I can contribute, the more I can support mutual aid projects and things like that. And so, like, it is this great balance that we're holding, and I think we're talking about that in the aspect of looking forward. In the aspect of looking forward, because it is coming from either a place of fear and a place of hope. And there are, we're kind of arguing that there's potentially more hopefulness here out in the world, but at the same time, there's a lot of fear for people because their current situation is really fearful. Maybe it's easy for us to have hope right now because we are extremely privileged to be in our situation.
So how is this different than everyday life?
It's different in the logical ways.
No.
But it's different in the fact that we're trapped in our home. That's what I mean.
No, how is your holding balance for the earth the destruction of the planet and people who are hurting?
It's not any different than everyday life. It just is shining. This is what it's doing, is it's shining a spotlight on it.
Jeez. Well, like, what people weren't aware of what was going on before this?
Well,
right in our own neighborhoods, there's suffering and abuse and
yes, of course,
starvation
it's the thing though. It's the thing though about seeing it when it's in front of you, and it's like I know that, I don't know. I pick a horrible situation A, like
don't
exactly. I know that that's happening, whatever that horrible thing is, but it's so hard to connect with it. But if I see it happen in front of me, or if I'm experiencing it, it takes on a whole new meaning.
I'm tired of that. I'm really tired of that. I'm tired of people waiting to experience it.
Let's read some comments.
Okay, I'm tired of people waiting to experience things to actually have empathy. All right, so Stephanie, I don't know if you're still on, but I love what you're saying about coming from hope. We need to remember how we're feeling right now and what this has exposed in our society. I couldn't agree more. If you're still watching, I'd love to know what you feel like this has exposed in our society, like top two things. And then Abby says, I feel like I'm going to be so annoying with the amount of hugs I'm going to give when this shit's over.
Amen.
Yeah, hopefully it's over soon. And then Alberto, a global opportunity to feel what we all might be feeling, says Mary, actually.
A global experience. I like that. I mean, like, we've talked a lot about, or at certain points, like, what if everybody was kind of doing the same thing, and the power in that to shift? A lot of meditation communities can think about that, like, it's like global meditation. If we all meditated on one single thing, like, could we make it happen? And this power of collective experience is really manifesting right now.
How come you are so much more tan than me? Like, by a lot.
I don't know. I am more tan. Y'all see that?
Look at that.
It's like two sides of a piece of toast.
All right. Different. This is my favorite. The thing that's going to be different. Different fashions, masks, gloves, more hygiene.
I think we're going to be wearing masks for a while, by the way.
Until it's over.
Maybe after.
No. Actually, no. See, I don't like this because like in in Asia, people wear masks, but I think that's because of the pollution. I don't know. Sometimes they'll wear masks in the like airport and stuff. But is that just like this? Like it's like the thing? Yeah, it's like a
I
tied
think
to
it's born because
cleanliness.
and it's born of, I think a lot of it's born of because of the pollution, and then it just becomes a thing and a habit. And that's what you get back into the conversation around time scale.
Okay, so if we all end up wearing masks on airplanes, like, am I really that sad about it? I bring Clorox wipes on an airplane because they're nasty.
Yeah.
It's shining a light for sure. We're using smoking mirrors, which is supposed to say smoke and mirrors, but that's okay. English isn't your first language. It's just to my dad. It's smoke and mirrors. And then get rid of fear at all costs, which I don't know what that means, but
I think that means
get rid of fear at all costs.
Get rid of fear at all costs, and I think that's really hard. But we should be trying to, fear is, fear causes a lot of harm, and causes people to act crazy. It is also in a lot of ways, I think, necessary. As in,
like, it motivates you to do something.
Well, I think that there is. I just believe in like the dualistic nature of a lot of things, and so that like, can we have unlimited joy without fear at the same time? Like, again, back to the balance. And so, like, I have like fear of both getting coronavirus and of spreading it keeps me in a lot of ways inside.
Yeah, that to me is like personally and socially responsible, right?
Right.
So but fear as sort of like a free floating thing.
Yeah.
Fear of unknown, and fear is like a free floating idea. That's where it becomes dangerous. So, I think honestly, today's conversation and the people who've contributed has been so much more like, these are the best answers I've received. I didn't think that it was a stupid comment to begin with. Like, I didn't think saying things are going to be different, forever different was like a thing. I just was like, oh, cool. Why? And nobody.
Or how? You're saying
right? How?
Not how.
And nobody would say anything, including you. And I want to kind of end on that, but after we read this. So, but I think the stuff around like structure, employment structure was really interesting to me. I think the piece around, how we think about what our needs are was interesting. The stuff around cleanliness and health, like that, I think is trauma, because if it's gone, then we've known for a long time that Clorox and hand sanitizer and all that diminishes both the good and the bad germs, and we've been learning that we need to be letting our kids eat dirt and just like less concerned about that. So
I agree with that. I just think that one is somewhat tied to the timeline of how long this goes on. I'm not saying it will last forever. All that I'm saying is the longer this goes on, I have no idea how long, the longer this goes on, the longer the repercussions, the longer the reacclimation period will be. This goes on for 2 years, it may be even longer. If this goes on for another 6 months, it will be shorter than if this goes on for 2 years. Right. That is directly tied to how quickly we start hugging and shaking.
I guess I just want to say, for the record, like, I have my like germphobe limits, and they're low, right? Like, I don't really like germs. I also have been trying to get more germ friendly, because I know that I'm doing damage. There's a whole history behind that and being sick in the past, but like, I'm not going to walk around expecting another coronavirus to show up. And that was one thing that somebody said in response to my question. They said, well, we're going to have something like this every year. And I was like, whoa, okay, why do you say that? And I was really curious if this has opened a door to pandemics at this level. Like, and then, I think I pulled from another conversation that there is, we have done enough damage to the environment, and like if there is a relationship between 5G and whatever, but like we've done enough damage to the environment that this is the response from the environment to create a bug so big, right? So aggressive. So I was like, that to me sounds like a reasonable fear. But when I said, is that true? Like, did we just open the gate now every year? And she was like, like that didn't come from anywhere.
It came from a place of trauma and fear.
Yeah.
I think we've got a couple other good ones here.
All right. So kind of top two things were that it's going to change, or what was it?
Yeah.
What was my question? Top two things that we're going to not change, that it has affected or exposed, right? Mm-hmm. Hard to choose, but Stephanie says hard to choose, but health insurance tied to employment is a top one.
Yep.
And ensuring children have access to food in their schools when they suddenly close, realization that so many Americans are only one missed paycheck away from not being able to pay rent, and that hopefully that inspires change. And shining the light on what our government has jurisdiction over, like ordering 3M to produce a huge amount of masks.
Yeah. So a lot of that I think is a way in which the potential for positive policy shifts is great. This is completely my opinion. The potential for the coronavirus creating a lot of positive policy shifts is great, because the fact that it exposes all of the inequities and all of the ways in which our systems and structures in their current state were not very resilient. And I use that word just meaning like we're not, could not withstand any sort of hiccup in the system. It's like we as humans in our everyday life have to be resilient, right? Like and the less resilient I am, the less stable I am. That's why we have things like insurance and sick days at work. And the less I have of that, the less resilient I am to be able to handle. That's why people say savings is really important, because it makes you more resilient. And I think what this virus is doing is it's saying, oh, the system that the government had interacted, and it's not necessarily being like, throwing this all at the government, but it's like the system in which we were operating in, all of these things, kids being, getting their primary source of nutrition from school lunch. What happens if the school closes? Oh, well, that doesn't happen. People being tied to insurance, being tied to employers. What happens if massive amounts of employers all go under? Oh, that doesn't happen.
Can I pause you? Why didn't you answer it this way the other day? This is the love in the time of Corona.
Because I believe, like, sometimes you'll ask a question and you will not have the patience to have the conversation. And if you hear something right up front that you don't like, then you will immediately throw it out and try to start completely over. You won't travel. You won't travel the road. Like, we've just had a 40-minute conversation with people commenting, amazing comments, which I want to get back to, here on this podcast. Now we're getting to that answer, but like, we weren't just, it's not, we can't like hovercraft in.
Can you take any responsibility for that other conversation? Then we're going to get to our dear love, Zoe Mai Jones, and her amazing comment. But just that I brought it up and you became so flustered.
Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely became flustered. Yes. And I think that I didn't know how to answer this question. And I think it is an extremely insightful question that is really relevant. And you, as a very insightful, emotionally attuned person, and as a therapist, it's really a great one to ask. And it's a great one. You're really great at calling people out on trauma-based responses.
I don't do that with my therapist. Call them out.
Oh, yeah. I'm just saying,
kind of see that that's coming from that place.
And so, I hadn't actually had time to process, so my initial response was a terrible one.
Yeah. Are you always going to be this handsome?
Always.
Okay. So you want to read the next?
Yeah, so
last
Zoe
comment?
says, my hope is that we'll be encouraged by this to move towards a more regional economy as opposed to relying on huge supply chains, especially within the food system. Amen, sister. We've got some friends who work in the food supply chain and the food system. They work in the meat business, and yeah, they're saying the same things. Like these local, more regional economies. Again, it comes back to my point about being resilient. And look in this, the word for me that comes out of all this is resiliency. And just like you want to build resiliency in your personal life through savings, through all the things that the system that we exist within also needs to be resilient to these things, and we need to be prepared. And I think that we were generally just operating blindly. It's like crashing down a mountainside and hope we don't hit a tree. Well, we hit a tree, and we now have to get back up and shake it off and actually watch our steps, which is better for everybody. That's my opinion. So,
and people may not want to go back to the way things were from Mary, and that it was so unbalanced. That's our hope too.
But I think to your point, all of these points are
positive.
Right.
And
which is good, and
not
we
what I
agree
was
with.
hearing.
Right.
Yeah.
And you were hearing stuff that were like, it's never going to be the same. It's going to be so much worse. And what the heck is going to be worse? Because these are all things, well, we agree with all of them that are hopeful and change. And so what I'm taking away from this is we have a lot of hope coming out of this, even though we're in a really dark period right now.
Yeah. So Zoe Maya, if you're still there, you said by supporting our local economy, we can be close while still distancing socially. And do you mean right now, like we can still be close at the moment? Ooh, and she's gonna hug us so hard. Agreed. Maybe a quick smooch. What about all my friends who I mouth kiss? Is that over? Are those days over? Should they have been over on August 27, 2016 when we got married? Oh, man. Okay. Well, we're going to wrap this up.
It's a little delayed, so they don't see you.
I know. Yeah. We're going to wrap this up soon unless we get another quick comment. But, first of all, I'm sorry that for the past 2 weeks, every week, I have just washed my hair right before this because it's like you should have seen it when I got out of the shower. Who did you liken me to? Mark McGrath.
Mark McGrath, yeah, she looked like Mark McGrath.
100%.
Highlights.
Yeah, tips. I got tips.
Yeah, Sugar Ray.
So I got Sugar Ray tips, but now it's just a big boof. And thanks, Stephanie. Thank you so much for tuning in. And so great that I hope your birth goes well. Stephanie is like days away from having a baby. Aww. And she has this beautiful blue gown that she wore in her pregnancy. What do they call those? Pregnancy photos?
Yeah. Maternity.
Yeah. And she looked stunning. Thank you. So Julie Ferdina, before there will be a post-COVID renaissance. Lots of optimism is warranted.
Yeah.
That's what I hope.
That's the takeaway, I think. I think that this never will be the same. Actually, when you say that, or what I'm hearing is that when people say that, it's really should be coming from a place of optimism, because the fact that it's shining a light on a lot of the things that are unjust and inequitable about our society. And
I just hope that people...
And if they're not coming from a place of optimism, then call them out on it.
And I think it'll be hard if we don't continue to support our small businesses because, and like Zoe Maya was saying, keep focusing on the local economy because that's who we want to see thrive at the end of this. So we need to continue to support our local businesses. Even if you can't get a product from them, buy gift cards, support them for the future because now is the time. If you want to see us do this podcast, if you want to see me do soul reflection work, if you want to see your local consignment shop thrive at the end of this and not be replaced with a freaking Walmart, then we have to support them because the government's sending out these nominal checks and that are not necessarily supporting. Also, mind yourself to not ricochet back at the end of this. Like, oh my God, we've been released from captivity. I'm going to buy all the things, unless you're supporting local businesses and just showering them in support. Boom. I mean,
on fire tonight. Get it.
I needed to preach for a minute.
Preach it, girl. Preach it. And if you haven't already followed Reading Aloud Podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on Stitcher, on Pocket Cast, on all of wherever you get your podcast, go on to Reading Aloud, search it, Reading Aloud, on your podcast app, follow, rate us, give us a review. That's super helpful. Join Soul Reflection in the Ministry of Fashion, and just follow the podcast. You can download all of our episodes. We're on to season 2, and this is our 4th live Love in the Time of Cholera series, 3rd live Love in the Time of Cholera series, and we did 2 more before that were actually part of the Keep the Conversation Going tour. So thank you all so much.
I'm shaving my head before next Tuesday. Come back to see.
Maybe we'll both shave our heads live. Thank you all so much for joining tonight and for all the comments. That was great interaction. And we will see you here again.
8 p.m. EDT, Eastern Time.
8 p.m. next Tuesday. All right. Love
Blessings, y'all.
Bye. And the video.